Today's date is February 22nd, 2018. Hello and welcome to another episode of Hit the Books Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Holcomb.
And I'm Emery Saunders.
And we're here to give you all the saucy deets on everything comics this week. For those of you unfamiliar with the show, this is our weekly comic book podcast. It comes to you usually every Wednesday, but sometimes we have some delays, like this week, which is why we're recording the day of. So we apologize.
Only a little late.
We wanted to see Black Panther and do that review first, which we did, but they'll both be coming out around the same time. So feel free to look at our review page on our YouTube channel and on our Stitcher and iTunes, and you can check out that review and see what our opinions are.
Yeah, boy.
We go spoiler-free at first, then we give you a warning, then we go into spoilers. And hopefully you enjoy it.
Let's hope.
We can only hope.
I mean, we could do a little more than hope.
Oh, yeah. We can know.
Oh, yeah.
So, for those of you unfamiliar with the show, we go into what we've been reading. We talk about the latest news. We tell you all the new releases coming to your local comic book shops every Wednesday. And then we talk about two topics, or a third if there's a guest, for your amusement. If that sounds like a good time, hit like and subscribe down below, please. And follow us on Stitcher, iTunes, YouTube, and any other service of your choice. You can always find the links to all these things on htbvids.com. And on that homepage, you can find buttons that'll take you straight to our iTunes feed, straight to our Stitcher feed, straight to our YouTube channel. So you don't have to remember any gaudy links or anything like that.
Right. We're not at the level where we can have our own vanity URL yet for YouTube.
We're getting closer, though.
But we inch closer with each passing day.
So please, if you enjoy the show, just check that stuff out and help us out so we can get that vanity URL.
Oh, yeah.
So, Emery, what have you been reading?
This week I kind of was behind the eight ball and didn't really hit the mark, so I kind of missed comics this week.
Well, you got a few of them that you read from my little batch.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right. That was Port of Earth, number 4.
Mm-hmm.
And what was the other one?
Sideways, number 1.
Sideways, number 1. Yeah.
Still the stupidest fucking name ever.
I mean,
Sideways is not a noun.
It's not a noun. It's an excuse to make silly puns, which
so bad.
they already started in the first issue.
Yeah. And we have yet another Marvel ripoff.
He's slightly Spider-Man-ish.
He's really Spider-Man-ish. He's like Peter Parker, Miles Morales smushed into one character and given the powers of Nightcrawler.
All of the things we want in a DC character.
So now we have the Terrifics, which are basically the Fantastic Four.
Yep.
We have Damage, which is basically the Hulk, but only for an hour. And now we have Sideways, which is basically Miles Morales / Peter Parker smushed together with the powers of Nightcrawler. And with an outfit that looks a lot like blue Spider-Man.
Sounds legit. New age of DC heroes.
And then there was one other one. Which one was it? Oh, Old Man Hawkeye, number 2.
Old Man Hawkeye.
Which I thought continues to be pretty good. I liked it.
Yeah.
It's kind of reminding me of a Quentin Tarantino film, though, the way it's been framed.
Yeah. There's an issue that I'm having with it, and that's trying to nail down at what point is this world? Like, are we pre-apocalypse, post-apocalypse, post-apocalypse but in denial? It's like there's a point in which it's assumed that schools are still happening.
Yeah,
but it looks like we've reached the end of civilization where schools shouldn't matter, really.
Yeah. There's some contextual issues, which we mentioned when we read the first issue.
Yeah.
where like I was like, I gotta go back and read Old Man Logan the original because I feel like there's some context here that's not right.
Right.
But we know that it's before the events of the first Old Man Logan storyline. But that's about it.
That's about it.
And we know it's been long enough that he's old and has a kid. So
yeah.
Old Man Logan, artwork's great. Still enjoying the story. Looking forward to the next issue. Port of Earth #4 continues the strong storyline, but I think it's kind of predictable what's happening. I wish they would just get to it
Right.
with Port of Earth, because I think it's very clear where they're heading and what the alien they're pursuing is going to do, and I wish they'd just get around to it.
Yeah, it seems like they're doing a lot of setup and a lot of posturing.
Yeah, and I mean they kill off a character, in this issue. Not gonna say which one or whether they're significant or not, but for me it was like that character had barely been around for like 10 seconds. So to me, I was like, that didn't really have any emotional impact whatsoever.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's what they were going for, but I was like, okay. And they're still being recorded like an episode of Cops, so it's not even I don't know.
It's kind of it kind of loses its significance.
Yeah. So I mean, it's still good. It's just I think it's getting a little predictable and a little slow. I hope they speed it up in the next issue.
Yeah.
And then Sideways. Sideways writing was good when they weren't making puns. Everybody in this comic has a stupid name. Like I swear, whoever's writing it is just making up dumbass names, dumbass hipster names.
Let me go to the name generator.
Or Lestine. Like, shut up. Lean.
Nobody does this. Nobody does this.
So not only is the superhero name stupid,
his real name.
his name's an adjective.
I don't even know the superhero's real name's last name.
Yeah, I don't know what it is.
His
His first name's Derek, right?
Yeah.
Derek. How does he have a normal first name and it has his two associated friends / sisters have dumb made up fucking
like
bullshit rich people names, I guess. It's like if Michael Jackson named your kid.
Oh no.
Oh, your name is Blanket and your name is Apple.
Your name is Prince. Oh wait. You'd be Prince Michael.
I'll hang you over the balcony.
Oh no.
You'll float down just like a blanket.
And you'll float too.
Macaulay Culkin's very angry with us right now. How dare you besmirch the name of my beloved idol?
I'm sure Corey Feldman is pissed too.
You're just ignorant. You're just ignorant. So those were the comics we touched on. We're going to get around to the new Kick-Ass eventually, but I just don't want to. I really don't want to. Fucking middle-aged woman with kids fighting crime with sticks on the streets of Arizona. And an outfit worn by a teenage Jewish boy in Brooklyn.
She's from the military. At what point did she think that this was a good idea?
Bright yellow sticks.
Get it!
In Arizona. A lot of space in Arizona.
I'm pretty sure.
Not a lot of close quarters combat going on there.
Don't military trained people or don't people just in the military normally wear, I don't know, camo?
Why wear
something?
camo when you can wear a lime green and yellow outfit sported by a young Jewish man?
Lime green and yellow doofus onesie.
With no poop chute.
With no poop chute.
Which you'll need when you're getting your ass kicked.
God.
But yeah, so we'll get around to that eventually. I just don't want to. And with that, let's get into the news. First up, DC has been hit with more delays. Surprise! Every week we are talking about new delays from fucking DC. Because they're stretching.
To the surprise of no one.
They're stretching everybody way too thin, and they're still on this fucking sales idea that you gotta make each issue each month that it's coming out. That's ridiculous. That's not how you create comics.
That's absurd.
It's the worst business model ever. Make at least half of it. At least half of it.
Yeah.
Before you start releasing it. It's so ridiculous. And when I say at least half of it, I mean half of the run, not an issue.
Right.
But,
It's like release half of it so you can properly edit and make sure that it's good.
Yeah. So this time, the delays are a little bit smaller, but still pretty significant for readers because, as we've talked about, when there's a delay, people forget your comic exists.
Right.
And then they forget where the story was, and they stop buying it.
Yeah.
So, first up, Dead Man #5 has been delayed by 3 weeks and will come out March 21st. Doom Patrol #11 has been delayed a total now of 4 months from its original release date of last November, and it will release March 28th. Doom Patrol #12 is not solicited and was likely canceled. The finale to the Dark Knights Metal Event issue #6 has been delayed 2 weeks and will be released on March 28th. No reasons were given for any of the delays. At least the last few weeks they had the integrity to come out and explain why. Now they're not even bothered with it anymore. They're just like, well, it's gonna happen. Let's just keep doing it.
Oh my god.
And I hate that so many of these delays are coming from comics that have such a short run.
Right.
You couldn't make 6 issues ahead of time without delays. They've delayed every single one of these metal books. This big dumb event.
Yeah.
Why could you not create these comics ahead of time? 6 issues? You couldn't make 6 issues before release. You had to force them month by month by month. It's like living paycheck.
3?
Yeah, it's like living paycheck to paycheck in the comic world.
Yeah.
Not a very good business model, and I wish they would stop doing it. Next up, Incredibles 2 has released a new trailer. It will arrive in theaters June 15th.
Ooh.
So, did you see the trailer?
I did not.
Okay, so this trailer basically focuses on the dad, Mr. Incredible, becoming a lone stay-at-home dad when mom goes to become a superhero again. Basically, they both want to be superheroes again or whatever, and there's a need for a superhero, but they don't want both of them.
So mom does it.
So mom is, for whatever reason, the one who ends up being the superhero again. So she's kind of having like a midlife crisis as she's becoming a superhero again. And then the dad is trying to figure out how to take care of the kids all on his own while the baby is developing his new powers, which are basically Firestorm's powers, from what I'm guessing, because he's just shooting lasers and fire and ice and everything. So
I'm pretty sure, like, Baby Jack, his powers, last I saw them in that movie that came out in like 2003, were just whatever the fuck we felt like putting on him. I remember the baby turning to metal. I remember the lasers. I remember the baby turning to fire. It's just kind of whatever the fuck we want.
Yeah. So that was the trailer in a nutshell. Him just dealing with the chaos of the kids, and it's right where it left off, it seems like. And yeah, I didn't. I'm probably one of the few ones. I love the Pixar films, but I didn't like the first Incredibles movie that much. I thought of like all the Pixar films, it was better than Cars, but that's about it. And I'm not a big fan of it.
I'm going to say that there are a lot of Pixar movies that have been released since that are far and away better films. Just straight up. The biggest issue is probably that movie doesn't really age well.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't watched it in a long time, but even when it first came out, I was just like, this is... I feel like this would be funnier to, like, stereotypical parents with a white picket fence and 3 kids and a day job at a desk. Like,
it seems like a very...
Yeah. It seems like
a very targeted audience that it's going after.
And I'm not saying it's bad. It was still good, as most Pixar films are. Just like Marvel films. Hint, hint for our review.
Hint, hint.
But it just wasn't. It just wasn't great. I just
Yeah, it's
as
like
I've
just
seen
because
from
you throw Samuel L. Jackson in it doesn't make it automatically a great movie.
Yeah, so
And I think the Marvel films have kind of learned that slowly and started making films without him in it, only for us to say we want him back. And this movie might be the same kind of deal. I was like,
well, I mean, he's in it, so
well, yeah. I
He's
think
in
they
the
kind of
trailer.
figured we can't make this movie without this character's best friend, Frozone, who has literally had people for like the last 15 years yelling, "Where is my super suit?"
woman, where's my super suit? So yeah, I'm happy for any fans of The Incredibles that they're getting their sequel, but hopefully it'll be good. But it just didn't. Even the trailer didn't do anything for me. Next up on the news, several DC comics are ending soon, according to solicitations. Justice League of America, Trinity, Bombshells United, Batgirl, and the Birds of Prey. Supergirl, Super Sons are all included, with Titans, Harley Quinn, and Teen Titans likely joining them, as they are being rolled into Scott Snyder's No Justice event, which will be a 4-issue comic event where it looked like Injustice to me. Like, that's exactly what it looked like. Brainiac's become a threat and is coming, and villains and heroes are teaming up.
Oh my god, that video game actually did really well.
It's Injustice too.
I have an idea, guys.
But so if you're fans of those comic books, not all of them are disappearing outright. A lot of them are just relaunching on the DC Inc. and DC Zoom lines, which are the lines for children and teenagers. So, like, I know Teen Titans, for example, and Super Sons. Both of those are going on the Zoom and Inc. lines.
Yeah.
So you're not necessarily losing them outright. They're just getting different creative teams and moving to a different branch of DC. So look forward to that. And I know there's several other examples out there, too. I think Supergirl is getting her own line on one of the DC Inc. or DC Zoom titles.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's no way, like with the current political climate and the fact that Supergirl has her own TV show, that they're canceling her comic book.
Yeah. I'm happy Justice League of America is going away, specifically the current one. It's so bad.
Ooh,
Lobo should not be on a Justice League.
ooh.
Nor should he be on the Justice League of America. This is a space alien that killed his own people and destroyed his own planet and hunts for fun as a bounty hunter through the galaxy.
This
Why
sounds
would
like a villain?
Why would
This
he
literally sounds like a supervillain.
Why would he be in the Justice League? And not only the Justice League, but specifically for one country on one planet.
The Justice League of America.
So, yeah, it's really bad. Some of the other books are really good, but like, thankfully a lot of them are sticking around in other, younger divisions. Sad to see Trinity go, because we like seeing Superman punch a T-Rex in the face. Bombshells United. I'm glad that it had as long a run as it did, because if you don't know, I have them. These are the original Bombshell variants. If you're curious on the background, they did it as a special monthly event during New 62, where a bunch of lines had Bombshell variant covers.
New 52.
And they were so popular that they decided to see if they could come up with a good story and add them in, and they were pretty good books. They're pretty fun. So they had their own Bombshell line, where they actually had stories associated with all the characters they had created, and it was pretty decent. So I'm happy for them. They lasted way longer than I thought they would for a variant line.
It's a rare case of when an art style demands some kind of story behind it, as opposed to the other way around.
I wish they had done like a storyline for the steampunk variants that they had for all the characters, because those looked really cool. And I tried to collect them all, but they were off the shelves like instantly.
Steampunk it's a hot thing. Gotham by Gaslight is if that's any indication.
Yeah. So that's just some comics of note. Harley Quinn, I hope they do finally give her a break because I think everything is just so just saturated with
Oh yeah.
Harley Quinn, and it's just like whether it's Suicide Squad or making guest appearances in every other comic book and her own line, and then every month it seems like she has some kind of holiday special and some kind of Poison Ivy crossover thing, and now she's got the Archie Comics crossover thing where Ivy and Harley meet Betty and Veronica or whatever. I am so fucking sick of Harley Quinn right now, and when I say of Harley Quinn, I mean specifically the modern Harley Quinn that is just obnoxious and just a blatant,
Yeah, it's like we get it, or I get it. I really do. We thought we had hit gold when we hired Margot Robbie to play Harley Quinn in DC's only Oscar-nominated film, Oscar-winning film.
Hey, they've won another Oscar for Best Supporting Actor.
Oh, yeah?
Heath Ledger.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm pretty sure the Superman movies won some Oscars.
The original ones, yeah. The standards were a little different. But
Batman 89 might have won one for sound, I think, for music. Boom!
Boom. Oh, man.
Just schooled you.
That's more than...
Earth-shattering.
That's more than anything that Marvel's ever come close to being nominated for, ever. Which... Logan,
does Logan count?
Can we count Logan, please? I'm not going to count it. It deserves to stand on its own.
Fox did a good job.
They did. They did an amazing job.
But yeah, I mean, even before the Margot Robbie casting and all that stuff, like Harley Quinn was just so saturated in the comic book market, and I'm just, I like Harley Quinn more when she's a villain, but I'm just so over. I'm just so sick of it. Just
over her presence.
Like the past 10 to 20 years has just been Harley Quinn everything.
On that note, again, read Batman White Knight.
It does something fun with Harley Quinn.
It does something very fun with Harley Quinn.
Next up on the news, the game Rocket League has announced a new DC-themed DLC for its hit soccer car franchise, which I also enjoy.
Okay, DC-themed or Batman-themed?
DC-themed.
Okay.
The pack includes the iconic tumbler from the Nolanverse, the 1989 Batmobile, and several character-themed flags and decals for the price of $3.99, and that includes Wonder Woman, Superman, Aquaman, Green Lantern. So, that sounds like a good time. Why don't you go pick up that DLC and come play me on Rocket League? I'm sick of playing all these chubs.
I'll play that game once I feel like driving the DeLorean that I purchased on there again.
Yeah, I'm like one trophy away from having all the trophies, and it's literally the only reason I play that game anymore.
Trying to platinum.
Yeah. Next up, Marvel has released a promo video for their new line launch set to start in May of this year, featuring new character lines, new books, new creators via the departure of Brian Michael Bendis. So we watched the little clip, and it was really pathetic. It was basically like one shot of a gaggle of heroes just kind of being photoshopped, getting closer and closer, and then
doing some weird stuff.
Black Panther moved his arm a little. Yeah, everybody else had cool sparks and fire and whatever else, and were jumping out of panels, but Black Panther had arm.
Black Panther does one thing, and one thing only, and that's scratch.
But I thought that was kind of silly. And then they had the new head editor, I guess.
CB Cebulski.
Yeah,
or
Marvel.
From his 10 to 8 years ago pseudonym, Akira Yoshida.
Fat white guy, by the way.
Yes, CB Cebulski is his real name.
But and then we had him just kind of reading a placard. And it was a very awkward promo video.
It was a placard to let people know, yeah, we know that we might have fucked up for the last year or so, and I'm here to maybe fix it. Who
Yeah.
knows?
I don't know. It was just so cringeworthy because it felt like that Venom teaser when they had the big event and
no.
then they had nothing to show them.
Anything but that Venom teaser.
I expected them to show like panels or like the artists and writers that were going to be on the new lines or anything
to
like that.
announce a new lineup
Yeah.
of writers or something.
But instead, we just got this kind of sad-looking guy reading a placard, really obviously, with like weird animations of a single image.
It's like, why even bother with this video?
It's like I just wonder how much money they spent on this like pathetic video.
It's like they know people watch YouTube, and they know YouTube has either got people like staunchly supporting or being vehemently opposed to some of the things that they've done with their characters.
Yeah, like I felt like we could have put together something better than what they showed us. So I was a little disappointed with that.
It's
obviously,
like we could have put together something on par.
yeah, obviously this is something very predictable with the departure of Brian Michael Bendis, who has been pretty much in charge creatively.
Yeah.
As you would imagine, like Scott Snyder and Jeff Johns over at DC has been for the past 5 years or so.
Yeah.
So
Brian Michael Bendis had tenure.
there's going to be a large amount of turnover, I anticipate, and a lot of those stories that you may like or may not like are probably going to be toned down a little.
Toned down, shifted maybe even
back.
completely rearranged or undone.
Yeah,
Who
and
knows?
it looks like a lot of original characters are returning to their mantles, their original mantles, and not old man versions or female versions or
right.
different cultural versions. So we'll see if it's a good thing or a bad thing. I don't know.
All I'm saying is Marvel better not do what it seems like DC is doing with a new age of heroes.
I mean, they're trying. I mean, Sideways wasn't a bad book. It just has a dumb name. Damage was a bad book, and it just needs to go. Silencer was good.
Yeah, Silencer was good. But 1 out of 3 titles and another one that gets basically panels shown like in every other fucking comic.
Even though it's been delayed.
Several times.
And Immortal Men, which is not coming till fucking April. It was supposed to be the headlining book that started in, I think, December.
Right. No, we got to push it back. We gotta go back to the drawing board on this one and make sure it's good.
I'm
or at
pretty
least
sure.
I hope that's what they're saying, and not like, we're gonna see how these other books do first before we burn more time and money on this one.
So we'll see.
Yeah.
I'm excited for it. I'm just glad to not have to see all the bullshit, post new Secret Wars bullshit. It's so intimidating for a new comic fan to want to come in when you have all these different versions of the same goddamn characters floating around and causing problems and continuity issues. And I don't know why DC and Marvel both decided to have the whole let's put them all together and make them kiss. Like, really? That's your solution? In order to make everybody happy, we're just going to shove everybody in the same universe, every version, every creed. Like, no, that's not necessary. That's just confusing for everybody.
It's not like, DC didn't have really successful, what's that term? Elseworld books? Like Red Sun and...
These things can all be done.
Yes.
Without smushing everything in continuity and fucking everything up and making it incredibly daunting to any kind of new reader. But that's just my opinion.
If you want to do a fresh start, why not do something like what you did back in the 2000s and start another fucking universe?
And that, my friends, is the news.
And you know what? I'm going to keep it short and sweet. Bob, I've got one question for you, and one question only. What books are we hitting up this week?
Well, Emery, I thought you'd never ask.
Oh my God.
First up, from DC Comics. Now, again, these are the releases that came out yesterday because we're recording this a little bit late.
A little bit.
And by the time you listen to this, it'll probably be 2 days before. So if you really want these books, you should rush out and get them like immediately before they're sold out.
Get them now.
From
Get 'em
DC.
right now.
DC had a lot of really strong covers this week. Just want to point that out. Marvel had a few really good ones too. And even Image. Damn, there's a lot of good Image.
Yeah.
From DC Comics, we have Aquaman number 33. We have Batman number 41. We have Batman Cross Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, number 4. We have Batman and the Signal, number 2, because it got delayed. We have Batman Sins of the Father, number 1. We have Batwoman, number 12. We have Bombshells United, number 12. We have Cave Carson / Swamp Thing Special, number 1. And it has a big map of the multiverse. Interesting. We have Damage, number 2. We have Future Quest Presents, number 7. We have Green Lanterns, number 41. We have Harley Quinn, number 38. We have Injustice 2, number 20. We have Justice League, number 39. We have Mad Magazine, number 550. We have Nightwing, number 39. Look forward to a new creative team taking over, I think, on issue 44, because the current team is artistically very good. Writing is very bad.
Oh, please.
Stories are so bad.
Please give us a new team on this.
Next up, Super Sons, number 13. We have Superman, number 41. Teen Titans Go, number 26. We have The Brave and the Bold, Batman and Wonder Woman, number 1, which has a really cool kind of fantasy cover. We have Trinity, number 18. We have Wonder Woman Cross Conan, number 6. And that wraps up DC. From Marvel Comics, we have Astonishing X-Men, number 8. We have Avengers, number 681. We have Black Panther Annual, number 1, cashing in. We have Daredevil, number 599, where we terrorize a man who is blind with mirrors.
That's a victimless crime.
We have Deadpool versus Old Man Logan, number 5. We have Doctor Strange, Damnation, number 1. And I believe I see Blade in the background.
Ooh. I know what I'm picking up.
We have Generation X, number 87. We have Infinity Countdown, Prime, number 1. Guessing there's going to be another event.
Looks like we have some tie-ins.
We have Luke Cage, number 170. We have Monsters Unleashed, number 11. We have Punisher, The Platoon, number 6. We have Star Wars, Dr. Aphra, number 17. Fucking nerds. We have Tales of Suspense, number 102. We have The Amazing Spider-Man, number 796. We have The Defenders with another really cool cover, number 10. We have The Incredible Hulk, number 713. We have The Mighty Thor, number 704. We have Venom, number 162. And we have X-Men Gold, number 22. From Dynamite Entertainment, we have BSG versus BSG, number 2.
Bears eat beats. Bears beats Battlestar Galactica.
We have James Bond, The Body, number 2. We have Pumpkinhead, number 1. We have Red Sonja, number 13.
Boob comic.
Boobs. We have Vampirella, number 10.
More boobs.
I feel like this comic appears on our listing with a million variants every fucking week.
Yeah, everyone likes to
Buy
draw her.
our boobs.
Please.
Buy them. Do you like boobs covered in bats? Do you like boobs covered in blood? Do you like boobs covered in Christmas? Buy our boobs.
Please.
Signed, sincerely, Dynamite. From Image Comics, we have Birthright, number 30. We have Descender, number 27. We have Eternal Empire, number 7. I gotta find that number 1 because I'm really curious about that one. We have Evolution, number 4. We have Hit Girl, number 1. We have Horizon, number 18. We have Ice Cream Man, number 2. This one being that kind of Stephen King-like monster / scary tale book.
Yeah.
Not my taste, but if you like Stephen King, you'll probably like it. Next up, we have Lazarus, source book number 3. We have big release, Maestros number 5. Get hyped!
Oh shit, boy.
I love Maestros. You should love Maestros too. Very adult,
Very adult, very funny.
but you should read it if you're an adult.
Oh yeah.
Next up, Monstrous number 14. Another huge release.
Get hyped.
Santa Takeda's artwork is still as pristine as ever.
And she's back at it again.
God, she's so good. Next up, we have Moonshine number 7. We have Postal Mark number 1, which is a spinoff of the original Postal book. We have Redlands number 6. We have Regression number 7. We have Sex Criminals number 22. We have The Family Trade number 5. We have The Further Adventures of Nick Wilson number 2. And we have Twisted Romance number 3. From Boom Studios, we have Adventure Time Comics number 20. We have Fence number 4. We have Kong and the Planet of the Apes number 4. We have Lucas Stand Inner Demons number 1. We have Mighty Morphin Power Rangers number 24. It's morphin' time!
Mastodon!
We have Rugrats number 5. We have The Storytellers Fairies number 3. We have WWE number 14, brother!
Oh yeah!
From IDW Publishing, we have Gears of War: The Rise of Ram number 2. We have
the thing I put in my computer. Huh.
we we have Kid Lobotomy number 5. We have My Little Pony: Friendship is Magic number 63.
You fucking bronies.
Ugh, gross. We have Punk's Not Dead number 1. Pretty sure it's dead.
You can try to resuscitate it, but I'm pretty sure that's not going to work.
Pretty sure it's been dead for a while. We have Tangled number 1. And we have The Comic Book History of Comics, Comics for All, number 3. And that wraps up IDW. From Titan Books, we have Bloodborne, number 1. Gonna pick this one up. We have Quake, number 3. And we have Rivers of London, Cry Fox, number 4. Which has a very unique cover there. From Dark Horse Comics, we have Department H, number 23. We have Empowered and Sista Spookies High School Hell, number 3. Yes, spelled Sistah. I hate everything about that book. We have Hellboy and the BPRD, number 55, Burning Season, number 1. We have Matahari, number 1. Looks like a boob variant, even though it's just the regular cover. But we'll see. I think she's like an assassin or something.
That would be historically accurate.
And we have Vinegar Tea. From Vertigo, we have Deathbed, number 1. And we have The American Way, Those Above and Below, number 6. And that wraps up all the comic books coming to your local comic book shops.
Please support your local comic book shops.
And digital devices this week. Now it's time to hand out the prestigious, nay life-changing award of comic cover and variant cover of the week. This week's a wet one, folks.
Oh, man.
We tried not to because there were a lot of really good deserving covers, but unfortunately it's just so hard to say no to Joshua Middleton and Stepan Sajic when they're on their A game. And this week they are definitely on their A game. First up, our regular cover of the week goes to DC's Aquaman, number 33, cover by none other than Stepan Sajic. Now, if you're not familiar with Stepan Sajic, he is most popular for his work on a book called Sunstone, I believe, which is a book about a...
How do you want to describe that one?
It's a good book.
It's an adult book.
About a bondage couple.
Yep.
With fucking amazing artwork.
It's amazing artwork
And
for a book about a bondage lesbian couple. Let's be very
bisexual.
Yeah, that's true.
because the one had the
it-
boyfriend, and then the
y-
boyfriend is now dating someone else.
yeah,
because they were both doms, they couldn't get together, and yeah.
right. It,
It's
it just
it's
doesn't work.
it's a surprisingly good book about smutty material,
Yes, it is.
like an incredibly good book, and I don't understand how. And it's not like full on porn or anything.
Nah.
A lot of it's suggested work and then in bondage apparel or whatever.
Yeah,
But then the actual stories are actually pretty fun and interesting, and the characters are actually pretty
yeah.
likable.
it's like it's the life outside of the boudoir.
So yeah, Stepan Sajic, I think a lot of people overlook him in the comic book world just because of his former work and
Yeah.
his unabashedly, I would say, glorification of the human naked figure. So
Yes, he knows how to draw nudity very well. He also apparently knows how to draw an Atlantean king and queen, as
Yeah.
seen here.
So here, we've talked about Aquaman several times over this past year because it just keeps popping up with great cover work. And then we get the book, and because we're not in the storyline, we don't know what's going on. We don't want to hop in and give it a rating on our Did the Content Match the Drapes segment, which we don't have this week because we didn't read the last ones.
Right.
Again, in the middle of a storyline, didn't want to read without context. But we have flipped through them, and the artwork inside and what looks like some kind of court intrigue storyline where you kind of got like you described, a Game of Thrones situation going on.
Yeah.
The book looks so good
It
inside and
does.
out, and
It's
I-
beautifully
I'm gonna have to
drawn.
go on Comixology or something, get all the back issues and catch up because we keep buying these issues and I gotta read them because it just looks so good. And Stepan Sajic once again, no pun intended, blew it out of the water with another great cover. This time featuring Mera and Aquaman, kind of an embrace and a kiss with various hands. I'm guessing the different courts.
Yeah.
The different court characters, pulling them apart and setting up for the finale of the current storyline. So I have a feeling once money is less tight, I'll be getting into this and diving pretty deep. Again, no pun intended.
Oh, just as long as they don't make me mad enough to start dressing up like Black Manta.
My man.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it looks really cool.
Oh.
Generally speaking, I've been totally against Court King Aquaman and Bearded Aquaman. I always think it's really goofy. Oh, like the Injustice Aquaman, for example. He's just too goofy and over the top. Oh, what are you? How dare you talk so rudely to a king?
I-
Kneel before me. Like that. I hate that shit.
Like Neil Land Dweller.
Yeah, it's so shitty to me. I like when he's a human. He's the Arthur Curry that grew up on the shoreline with his father. Didn't know he was an Atlantean, but knew he had exceptional abilities.
Right.
That sort of stuff.
I knew he was special.
Yeah. I like that stuff. I don't like the whole
Kind of
king
royal
court.
douche.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Royal douchebag. With a big beard,
Yeah.
hook hand. I hate that version of Aquaman, but it looks really interesting, and maybe this is just the typical Arthur Curry, but trying to figure out how to ascend the throne without alienating everybody, since he is half human.
Right.
And then Mera obviously being from a group that got expelled from Atlantis long ago, so
Yeah.
she's not welcome in Atlantis either.
There's a lot going on in this book.
So I got to get to it. This artwork, once again, is fantastic. Once again, there's just so much attention to detail. I would guess he does a lot of the raw, outlining and then uses kind of Photoshop interfaces to paint it and shade it. But he just does such great work, whether it's his DC work or his Sunstone stuff or his Marvel, commissions and stuff. Stepan Sajic just consistently does fantastic work. And if you're not a fan of Stepan Sajic because of his reputation for what the work he has done, I think you're doing yourself and him a very great disservice, because his artwork is meant for the eyes to consume.
Yes.
So, big congrats to Stepan Sajic for once again winning the Hit the Books cover of the week with Aquaman number 33 regular cover. Now, our variant of the week
Our variant
also
of the
happens
week,
to be.
we should mention that we actually chose the variant before we chose the regular cover.
Yeah, we had several nominees for regular cover. We had Monstrous, we had Birthright, we had The Defenders number 10, all with great covers. But in the end, we just couldn't say no to Aquaman number 33. And then we literally had to flip a coin between two comics, which was Defenders number 10 and Aquaman 33 to choose one, and it landed heads, and we went with Aquaman 33.
Yeah.
So it was a close call across
it does
the board.
help that Stepan Sajic, he just knows how to like perfectly portray this type of artwork. There's something about like the underwater nature of these characters that he captured perfectly.
Yeah. And just to give a quick shout out, David Marquez, which did the Defenders number 10 cover, did a great job. And literally it took a coin flip for him not to win.
Literally.
So,
yeah.
It was a close call. The variant, however, I think was very clear from the beginning who we were going to choose. And once again, it's Aquaman number 33. This time the variant cover done by Joshua Middleton. And this cover, when I first saw it, I just thought of like, the L'Oreal Paris, kind of commercials.
Because he's worth it.
Yeah. It does look like some kind of makeup or like hair dye commercial or something.
It does.
But
oh my God.
It's so neat and intricate, and it looks like it's done with some kind of oil paints. Done by Joshua Middleton once again. This cover just has such a cool use of kind of wavy lines, and you can see that he's hidden like little features in the artwork. You can see like a small fish next to his neck, and if you're not looking real close, you might completely miss it because it all kind of blends into his hair and his beard that's all kind of waving, and he creates the perfect effect of being, illustrating the fact that he is in a body of water, even though there's no water necessarily depicted or defined there,
Right. It's like it has something of an otherworldly nature to it.
And the closer you look, the more you see. He uses like little dots, like little circles with blue and orange color that are in his hair that kind of outline what you assume are bubbles of some sort, right?
Yeah.
But then if you look closer, some of those bubbles turn out to be some kind of creature.
Right.
Or a symbol. It's really, really cleverly done, and I think done really wonderfully. And I really love how he made this cover, and it's an outstanding cover, awesome cover. Joshua Middleton, like Stepan Sajic, has won our award in the past.
Yeah.
Again, because these Aquaman covers have just been so great. So really love this cover. Can't say enough about how great this cover is, and I highly recommend you go pick up both the Aquaman 33 and the variant cover for this week for the artwork alone, because they're just so fantastic and done so well and so cleverly. And then, I would also say the same about Defenders number 10 and Monstrous number 14. Again, great covers. Just
the artwork alone
it was just such a strong week and so hard to pick just one.
God.
And I mean, there's even Brave and the Bold number 1. I mean, that has a cool, very unique kind of fantasy cover with Wonder Woman and Batman. Unfortunately, I hate to do this because it's not really the artist's fault, but the new design for Batman just looks so goofy.
I hate it.
In that backdrop. I don't like the highlighter yellow around the bat symbol. I don't like the kind of blue-purple cowl interior.
Yeah.
It just looks a little goofy, and it kind of ruined the fantasy image, If Batman hadn't been there, it would have looked really cool.
Yeah.
But because Batman was in there next to Wonder Woman and this big fantasy creature guy, it kind of with the current costume design, it didn't look very good.
That cover actually would have been fine had it just been that what I'm assuming is some kind of troll or orc creature, and just Wonder Woman.
Yeah,
it would have been fine.
It would have been very good.
Yeah,
but I feel like Swamp Thing would have fit that picture much better.
Yeah, he would.
I don't know if it fit the story, but
I
to each their own.
Yeah.
So big congrats once again to Stepan Sajic for Aquaman number 33 and Joshua Middleton for Aquaman number 33 variant. You have both won our cover and variant cover of the week. And for our new friends out there, this is the part of the show where we each discuss a topic of our choosing about the world of comic books. Emery, what is your topic?
My topic is one that comes hot on the heels of the Black Panther release.
Again, you can check out our review on our YouTube channel. We'll probably post it on Stitcher and iTunes also, like our previous reviews, but be sure to check those out if you're interested.
Oh, yeah. There's something that watching that movie has made me realize, and that is that Marvel villains Marvel villains that aren't already taken by other studios.
Spider-Man villains, X-Men villains.
Yeah. They're kind of weak.
They're really bad.
They're weak. They're bad. I don't fucking care about any of them, like, not even an hour after the movie's done.
Yeah. Now, to be fair, I will say that one villain prior to Black Panther had a memorable villain that previously had never been really memorable to me, and that's Vulture.
Yeah.
I think Michael Keaton played the best villain that we have ever had in a Marvel Universe movie, in my opinion, and that includes Black Panther.
I will say that, in my opinion, Black Panther's Killmonger is right up there with him.
Yeah, Killmonger's solid number 2 for me. I have no problem saying he's my second favorite villain that we've had.
Yeah.
Obviously, he's not really. I just won't say anything. See our review.
Yes, please see our review.
But
long story short, we really like that movie.
yeah, it was good, not great for
Right.
me. I thought it was as solid as a Marvel movie can be. Top 10, not top 5.
I went top 5 personally, but
I still don't understand how.
again, see the review. B-.
I gave it a C+, but then boosted it to a B- out of spite because DC doesn't know what the fuck they're doing, and I hate my own fanboyism.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. Well deserved.
Watch our review. But
yeah, there's a thing that okay. So we have 2 villains right now that anyone probably cares about or cares enough to remember anything about. And that is, of all the villains they could have picked, Vulture is like before this movie, Vulture was a fucking D-list.
I mean that
no one cared about him.
That just goes to show that the writers of Spider-Man: Homecoming and Michael Keaton just fucking nailed it.
Yeah.
They blew it out.
They knew
way out of the park. They hit that ball so hard, so far. I mean,
it landed on another fucking country.
Yeah. Like they did an outstanding job, especially towards the end there. Like there's that one scene where he shows up to pick his girlfriend for the dance or whatever.
Oh my god.
So good. Such a good scene. But yeah. For me, Vulture's number 1.
Yeah.
And he has no real greater impact on the Marvel Universe. He's not going to be contending with Thanos for any kind of significance, but he's just so cool and so good at being a villain.
His story mattered.
Yeah.
While it doesn't affect the Marvel Cinematic Universe at large, his story mattered.
Yeah.
In a different way, much like Black Panther's villain, his story mattered.
Yeah. To the characters and the audience.
Oh, yeah.
It wasn't just generic, industrial guy, generic rich guy who wants to undermine the company, or generic Nazi guy who, wants to do Nazi things for reasons.
Or generic space villain because we want more worlds.
Generic space guy with weird colored skin and, stones.
Getting stones and talking about. He basically spouts off a bunch of like weird space technobabble that no one's gonna
Yeah.
remember or give a fuck about.
Yeah, and I think Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 had a chance with their villain in that movie, but they just squandered it, in my opinion, with all the forced jokes and the terrible plot line and the side quests. And
I was laughing at that movie for the wrong reason. That
so
movie should not have done that to me.
I think that had the potential. With
Squandered.
Kurt Russell there, but they just
Yeah.
just didn't nail it, unfortunately.
Yeah. But
But I guess you could bring up Loki. Now, everybody gives Loki all the credit for being a good Marvel villain. I don't think he's a very good villain.
he's not.
He's not even a villain half the time.
Right.
He's like an anti-hero.
which
kind
is
of.
not what you should be doing with Loki.
Yeah, and I don't know. Like, I like the actor. I like how he's played. I like his character contributions in the stories, but he never seems like the major villain. Like, even in Avengers, he wasn't the major villain. He was just the guy doing the bitch work for Thanos,
Right.
you know, who we see on camera once,
Right.
you know. So he had no, like, power or significance, you know, as a villain. Even in the Thor movies where he's pulling his tricks and being a dickbag, that's pretty much all he's doing. He's pulling some tricks and being a dickbag.
An arrow from Hawkeye was enough to blow him out of a fucking like alien spacecraft thing.
Yeah, so he's not a good villain. He's not a particularly smart villain either.
He's
So there's really nothing there.
right.
I mean, I
Like,
get it. He's handsome. He's dark and
He's
brooding,
self-motivated.
and he's got some family issues. You know,
Yeah.
he seems like the kind of guy you'd want to date and try to fix.
Right.
Yeah. No, but
that's
I
what
get
you
it.
want?
I
No?
get it, ladies, and
Some of you men out there.
yeah. But he's not a good character.
No.
He's not a good villain, in my opinion.
It's like and it's a shame that this is the case, but the best that they ever did with that character was in the first Thor movie.
Yeah, and even that wasn't like particularly really villainous. It was just
No, it
I'm
was
being a dickbag because
he's-
I'm angry about who my parents are.
right.
So let's go through the list of Marvel villains real quick that currently exist as major villains or have existed. We have Iron Man's business partner. I forget the name. The guy in the fat iron suit. Jeff Bridges.
Obadiah Stane.
We got Mickey Rourke with the octopus thing.
Oh yeah, the electro tentacles.
Yeah.
Who
Who I liked, by the way. I thought
Whiplash.
Thank you. I thought he was a good villain. Again, I'm a DC fanboy. I don't
Right.
care about these lesser characters that aren't X-Men villains. But
Right.
Whiplash I actually liked, and I liked Mickey Rourke's performance, but I think they just kind of wasted him. So nobody remembers him because Iron Man
Well-
2 wasn't a particularly good movie.
Oh, they
And then in the
they
end,
barely spent any time on him. Most
Yeah.
of the time, it was just Tony
real-
trying to not fuck up.
Yeah.
And
then the real villain was the other business guy.
yeah, the other fucking business guy.
So, yeah. Again, another throwaway white dude villain.
Right.
Just some generic dude. Some generic rich dude. I think they had potential to make a really cool villain with
Iron Man 3.
Iron Man 3.
Oh my God!
What's the
the
Mandarin? The
had
Mandarin.
So much potential.
I think they could have done so much with the Mandarin. But instead they went for plot twist, he's an actor, and it's this generic white guy who runs a business.
Who runs a business, and then at the end
Again.
tries to claim that he's the Mandarin. That movie.
And for some reason he has some weird glowing powers, because reasons.
That movie failed so fucking hard that there was literally a Marvel one-shot to say that, oh, no, the real Mandarin is actually pissed at you, person who tried to pretend like they were the Mandarin. As if we're ever actually going to bring the fucking Mandarin back.
Yeah, that was real dumb. So, again, another villain with potential, but completely wasted in the movie universe, unfortunately.
Yeah.
For Thor, we have Loki, and then the Dark Elves, which didn't really do anything. So, and then space people who were just kind of dicks. Jeff Goldblum, who wasn't really a villain, he was just a self-entitled space asshole. I don't know.
It's like he's a villain the same way that the fuck is that movie? Gladiator. He's a villain the same way that the person who takes the throne, like a little ways into the movie, he's the same way that he's a villain in that same way, but only for that certain part where he's just the king asshole who decides to have people fight because he thinks it's funny.
Worth it.
Come from the land of the ice and snow, but not where good movies are made.
0 on the tomato
is what they deserve.
Just kidding. Calm down.
Don't set the internet on fire.
So another character not really living up to the hype. Ultron was terrible, super boring, which I did not expect. I thought Ultron was going to be pretty good, especially with who they had playing him.
I thought Ultron was going to be more than. I know I was born yesterday, but I can already see that out of all of you people I'm going to try to emulate, it's going to be Tony Stark, weirdly. I'm going to try to act like him.
Daddy.
And also try to kill him. And also say that it's the time of the machines, because that goes over well, ever, in any movie. You would think that that AI would have had some time to maybe download some movies to see how machines versus man tends to go.
No, he just had Terminator.
Oh, fuck him.
Machines win in Terminator. Spoiler alert.
Machines win until you realize they make up time travel. Like in that movie, it's like they literally go back in time to find a way to win, because the moral of the story, which is what
life, we'll find a way.
Life always finds a way.
So that's another villain off the list of significance, and of course, it's a villain that probably won't matter into the future.
Yeah. No.
What other movies? We have the Captain America movies. So Red Skull doesn't matter. It's just generic Nazi guy.
He literally gets voiped into whatever the fuck happens when you touch that cube.
Yep. We have the Hydra, generic white Nazi dude, and Captain America, Winter Soldier, and you can kind of say Winter Soldier, but he's not the villain. We all know he's not the villain. Everybody going into the movie knew he wasn't the villain. So
yeah,
I don't think that really counts. And even if you do count him, it's not like he did anything. He just sabotaged some shit, didn't say a word, and that was it. And had Captain America shout, "Bucky!" a few times. That was about it.
Great movie, though. Great movie, but that villain does not matter at all.
Civil War didn't even need a villain, but they had, once again, generic white guy.
This is a fucking versus movie.
Who orchestrated a versus movie. Yeah. So you got that.
Yeah.
No real villain there. Am I missing any big ones? We got Spider-Man Homecoming, which has Vulture. We have Black Panther now with Killmonger. And the other guy, I can't remember his name, Andy Serkis's character. I thought he was just as good as a villain, even though he's not the main focus.
Honestly, I think Claw and Killmonger are two villain halves that basically were stretched out into one villain whole.
Yeah, and then we had what was his name? Crossbones. Who
you
did
mean
nothing?
That glorified thug?
Yeah, the guy that got blown up but had like armor with an X on it, so now he's a Marvel character.
Yeah, that's what it takes to be a villain in this universe.
Cool costume. He didn't last long, so obviously he doesn't count on the list of significant villains.
Batroc the Leaper showed up once. And by once, I mean in the very beginning of Captain America Winter Soldier.
Oh,
There's a guy with the vaguely orange and purple costume who stands there just so he can have his ass kicked.
we forgot. Shocker.
Oh! Does
Yeah.
he even count?
I mean,
We already went through
there's more
one
than
of them.
one.
Yeah.
So apparently, anybody who holds the little gun thing in Spider-Man: Homecoming is Shocker.
Even though that's not even how the Shockers thing is supposed to work.
But yeah, he's basically a generic thug for Vulture.
Basically.
So like a C-list villain becoming the thug for a D-list villain. But somehow Vulture was still awesome, so
right.
we can't say much.
This is what I found it takes to make a villain great. And that is for the villain to, much like we've learned with Magneto back in the early 2000s, is to have a villain who is, in a way or two, a little sympathetic. The entire point around
Most of the time.
Most of the time.
Joker might be the one exception.
The one exception. The entire theme around the Vulture was they took our germs. They took our germs. Yeah. This was a guy who was trying to do his job. He was trying to do his job and get paid to do said job because that's what he was originally hired to do.
Mm-hmm.
But then, lo and behold, big corporation comes and swoops in.
Well, that
and-
corporation being the U.S. government.
They technically count as a corporation. They swoop in and they say, nah, we're taking it.
Yeah. So, you have that.
Yeah.
You have a sympathetic character. You have a surprisingly intelligent character,
Yeah.
unlike a lot of these villains.
Right.
And you have a character with a motive that makes sense.
Yes. Like there is a motive that makes you feel in one way or another, I could have been that guy.
Yeah.
I mean, that is, I think, how Marvel makes a great villain.
Or how they should.
Yeah, how they should be making great villains. The Marvel heroes really stand on the idea that, like, if this were to happen to you, this is what you would turn out like. You could be the person who somehow gets born with healing abilities like Wolverine, or the kid who randomly walks into some kind of weird science experiment during like a school field trip, and you end up becoming Spider-Man. And the stories from there basically ensue in a way that makes you think, I probably would have gone that route had I been in their shoes.
Now, do you think the situation would be any different if the Marvel Universe had started off still having the X-Men, the Fantastic Four, Spider-Man, and Deadpool and all these other characters? Do you think that would have made any difference, or do you think they would still have kind of the generic Disney-fied villain that is kind of forgettable instead of having that kind of significance that I think Fox did a good job in bringing to certain villains? Specifically Magneto, because obviously Magneto.
I think, and that's been the question, I think, since day one, since before Disney had even gotten a hold of Marvel proper, is how much is Disney affecting how these stories are coming out? Like, are they, in some way, shape, or form, affecting the kinds of stories we can tell with these characters?
Yeah. And of course, Marvel Studios wasn't owned by Disney when they started this whole continuum. It was after the fact that they bought Marvel.
Right. This was like maybe 2 movies in that Disney
around
decided to swoop in and pay them a lot of money so that they could keep making more movies.
Yeah.
The thing that I think really strikes me with that question is that while we do have those Marvel movies, we have alternately on Netflix things like Daredevil season 1, Jessica Jones season 1 that tackles like really, really dark adult themed situations.
Yeah.
And like those characters are actually in some ways better than the ones that we have in the movies. Whether or not that's because we get to explore them for a full 13 hours or not is kind of up in the air. I think it's more in how they portray these characters in a way where you either are made to think, if I was in that situation, I would have done the same thing, or in cases like the villain for Jessica Jones season 1, Kilgrave, was like, you don't want to think that there's any part of that character that you could possibly like understand or make sense in your mind.
Sure. Yeah.
But then they reveal the part where you see what he was as a child and how he was basically a lab experiment.
Yeah.
A lab experiment that resulted in him being given the ability to basically take whatever he says and turn it into a direct what's the word? He turns whatever he says into a command that you cannot rebel against. It's a compulsion. That's what it is. Yeah, this is like I don't know how Disney even let them do that.
Yeah.
With that character.
I think Marvel has kind of done the opposite of what DC traditionally does. Whereas DC traditionally builds really dynamic kind of interactions with their villains and a diverse cast of interesting villains, even if they have some kind of goofy name like the Flash villains. Just all the Rogue Gallery has a stupid, goofy name, but they have depth. They're really interesting characters in their own right when you read them.
Yeah.
I think they're kind of shortage is on the hero side, where the heroes aren't particularly the most interesting people in the world. You know,
right?
You got generic billionaire doing whatever, which is like half of DC heroes, and then you got generic alien guy or generic superpowered guy doing 90 things. And I'm sure there's several characters that I would disagree with that on, especially being a DC fanboy myself. But I think overall that's kind of been the traditional projection, where you just kind of have these kind of heroes that have cool powers and gadgets or whatever, but then their villains are what really makes them interesting and dynamic. I think Marvel has the opposite problem, where they have a lot of really interesting characters, superheroes and stuff, but the people that are actually, the forces they're actually going up against aren't always very interesting
or compelling,
and just seem kind of cookie cutter, generic, I don't know.
Trying to take over the world.
Yeah.
Every single time.
Yeah. Whereas, with the DC characters, you're fighting people that are literally insane. They are people that have escaped from an asylum specifically just to fuck with this one guy.
Yeah.
Like,
you have that for Batman. You have the power mad or power hungry Lex Luthor, depending on the week.
Well, he's more of like the paranoid character that doesn't trust these, people from other planets, and sees himself as the only one brilliant enough to come up with a solution to protect humanity, in his most interesting form. If you go with the movies, he's a real estate mogul that just wants to come up with a real estate scheme. It's just fucking stupid. That is not Lex Luthor. Lex Luthor is actually a really cool and interesting dynamic character when done
right.
When done justice, just like any villain.
In the comics, Lex Luthor doesn't give a fuck about real estate because he has everything that he wants except for Superman's head on a pike.
Yeah. Because he doesn't trust him, not because he has any particular agenda against him or he's been wronged by him in any particular way. He sees him as a threat that only he can solve,
Yeah, that's Superman and Lex Luthor is probably one of the more interesting hero versus villain relationships.
Yeah, and I obviously there's exceptions, particularly with Magneto. You know, that kind of dynamic with Eddie Brock Venom and Spider-Man. Like,
Yeah.
there's
specifically Eddie Brock Venom.
yeah,
None of that Mac Gargan or
Hobgoblin
Lee
and Spider-Man
Price bullshit.
You know, when it's the Osborns.
Yeah.
I mean, there's exceptions, of course, but as there are with DC, there's plenty of DC villains that are throwaway.
Yeah.
There's exceptions everywhere, but I think generally speaking, the problem with Marvel is that their villains are kind of shitty, and the problem with DC is that their heroes are kind of shitty.
Yeah.
It's just
Can
the
we,
name of the game, I guess.
Can we maybe revisit the amalgam verse?
No,
Let's
please no.
take these two companies
Nope.
and just
Nope.
make them kiss.
Nope. That's not. You don't need Wolverine
Dark
guy.
Bat.
Yeah.
Spider Boy.
Oh yeah, I forgot. It was Superboy and Spider-Man. Oh, it was so bad. Oh, the 90s were horrible.
Oh, it was a dark time. It was a very dark time.
But yeah, I think I don't think too many people would disagree with that, and it's not an uncommon problem for comics outside of the immediate DC villains. You think of Hellboy, like Hellboy doesn't have a particularly memorable villain.
His thing is literally Monster of the fucking Week.
Yeah, Spawn, very similar with Demon of the Week. I mean, there's a few that are kind of iconic for that character if you're familiar with them, but to the layman, it just looks like generic demon number 2.
Yeah, it's him versus demons or angels or whoever happens to piss him off.
Yeah, and I think Walking Dead is one of those unique comics that succeeds in creating dynamic villains in the comics, but I think they run them fucking dry in the TV show.
Oh yeah,
they run them right into the fucking ground, man.
We gotta get out of Negan and the governor everything that they're worth.
Man, they get their money's worth for sure. Ugh.
Can we please let Negan go? Can we please let Jeffrey Dean Morgan do something else?
I mean, it's relevant to the comics, but I think they stayed on one aspect of his character for way too long.
Yeah,
and it's just. But in the comics, I think they did it really well, and obviously there's other examples, but there aren't really too many great villains out there outside of the ones we mentioned.
Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest hurdle for Marvel right now, is just trying to come up with something that isn't generic white dude of industry or generic white Nazi from the 40s or generic society guy or generic spaceman with a hammer. like
we need a villain with a motivation that we will actually give a fuck about.
I mean, even Thanos, Thanos is the big bad that we've been building up for so long, but Thanos really doesn't have a good motivation for anything he does. Like the original Infinity War story, his whole motivation is that he's trying to impress Lady Death because he wants to fuck Skull and Bones over here, It's like so he decided to destroy the universe and kill everybody and destroy half the population of the universe with the snap of his fingers because he wanted to fuck the skeleton lady. Like that's your motivation, the big bad. Like with Darkseid, he's waging war with other gods. At the very least, he has a motivation that makes sense. He's been at perpetual war with these assholes that live on this planet next door.
Hey, don't you talk about New Genesis like that.
He doesn't want to deal with New Genesis bullshit anymore. He wants to get that anti-life equation so he can get rid of their asses. Because it's really hard to kill a fucking god. So
I finally found the anti-life equation. I can finally enact my plan for... Wait, Superman, stop.
Wait,
Superman,
no.
what are you doing?
No.
No.
Hey.
Superman!
Don't touch that. So yeah. But even Darkseid, who is the big generic big bad guy, of the DC universe, he has at least a motive that makes sense. Thanos, we have no fucking idea in this movie universe what's his motive. Why did he decide now of all times to put on the glove and go search for the Infinity Stones? Like,
we don't know yet. They have exactly
one movie
to finally
let us know.
Explain this bullshit, and then another movie to finally resolve this bullshit.
He wants to gather the Infinity Stones so he can buy a new helmet for his big scrotum face.
He's got to look good for Dead Bay.
So stupid. It's like it's one thing that's what I've never understood about the generic kind of warmonger space villains. You know, the space villain is always some kind of warmonger of some side or some kind of conqueror. You know, with Galactus, at least he's eating. At least he's just trying to sustain himself. You know, there's a motive there. But with guys like Thanos and other generic space villains, it's always like, I am here to cause death and strife and whatever. Okay, but why?
Why?
Do you want our resources? No. Do you want to manipulate our heroes and build an army? Well, not really.
What do you want?
Why are you messing with us? We're just like this little blip in the middle of the universe. Why do you care?
Because
villainy.
Yes, because villainy. As opposed to Galactus, who's like, oh, I finally made my way to this planet. Silver Surfer, thank you for surfing up this planet for me so that I can finally eat. Mr. Fantastic, what are you doing? Mr. Fantastic, no, stop. Reed Richards?
Salt Bay.
That's exactly what the Silver Surfer is to Galactus. He's fucking
Salt
Salt Bay. It's like...
Salt Bay, what are you doing? Salt Bay? Salt Bay!
How dare you turn on me?
But yeah,
I asked for salt, not pepper.
No, people keep calling this the Marvel problem, but I think it's, you know, pretty much everything outside of DC problem and X-Men.
Right.
There's just, it's hard to create motives for very generic villains, and
right.
Thankfully, the thing that makes these movies so good is that the heroes and the supporting cast for the heroes are so good. Not necessarily that the villains are good, but the cast is good.
Right.
And that's what keeps people coming to these movies.
Yeah, they figured out to make you interested in the hero.
Yeah.
As opposed to, in DC's case, making you interested in
Jolly
which
Rancher
villain.
Ha! Gods, angels, devils. Have a Jolly Rancher.
Ding,
ding, ding, ding, ding, ding, ding, ding, ding, ding.
Lex, did you watch The Dark Knight or something? Are you
Jesse
trying to
Eisenberg was terrible.
Are you trying to be Heath Ledger? Is that what this is? You're just being weird.
You know how you ruin good villains? That's how you ruin good villains. Zack Snyder, you're no touchy. No. Apparently, there's rumors going around that some person that was an editor at some press organization said that he apparently got fired months before the whole family incident happened, where he unfortunately lost his daughter. But take it with a grain of salt. It may be just some guy talking out his ass, but apparently he got fired, and I'm not surprised. Not that I think his replacement did anything much better. I think it would have been better just to leave it as it was and just fucking get rid of it and reboot. Instead, we're perpetuating this fucking garbage universe.
Because we can't seem to make a good story. That is the biggest problem with DC movies. To further finish out this tangent, for present DC movies and their DC extended universe, they keep making movies around stories that are terrible. Their stories don't fucking work. Batman v Superman had 3 to 6 movies worth of story that they just decided to condense into one. And yes, they're probably all doing cocaine.
Bob's our coke platform.
What do you think he's made out of?
Shazam, the movie. Let's do it. Let's do it.
Let's do it. People are going to buy a kid saying a magic word and turning into a 30-year-old man,
They don't like our Snyderverse. Well, we'll just make 12 more movies.
Right.
Because you'll fucking see it. Budget $500 million.
Right.
Why not?
That's all we need. Yeah. It hurts. It hurts me so deep, and I'm the Marvel fanboy.
And with that, I think we'll have a perfect segue into our next topic.
Yes.
Marvel, write better villains. DC,
please?
Write better anything.
It's true.
My topic is more about physical comics versus digital comics and actual, the art of collecting.
Yes.
Um,
Speaking of which, I've gotten into the art of collecting, or more
Yeah.
specifically,
I've been looking at it this whole episode. I can't stop staring at it, and it keeps distracting me when I'm in mid-conversation.
as you can clearly see right here, we have a printed box. A printed box perfectly made for storing your comics. I specifically got this one that has the cover of X-Men #1 plastered all over this thing for a very obvious reason. I'm a huge X-Men fan. You already know that by now. But yeah, in case you were wondering what the hell's been off in the corner this whole time, it's been this.
There's not enough black.
There's not enough black. Brian Singer, go in and fix this. Oh, you mean fuck it up? Yeah, do that.
Bryan Singer did okay. Be nice.
Brian Singer
He made 2 bad movies,
he
and
took
a bunch of them.
he took the Blade aesthetic and applied it to the X-Men.
To be fair, Blade worked.
Yes.
If you've seen the original Blade costume, it's goofy as fuck.
Yeah. That one deserves the all-black treatment. It makes sense, and are we really going to have Wesley Snipes running around in bright green and yellow? He's not kick-ass.
What is this, Arizona?
No, he's fucking Blade. He fights vampires at night because he himself is a half vampire. It makes sense to deck him out in black, and besides, haven't you seen people who LARP
Mama, don't preach.
the fucking Vampire the Masquerade players who like LARP their gameplay? I've seen it.
So,
Yes.
your graphic box is fucking awesome.
Yes.
I really love it, and if money weren't so tight right now, god damn. But I just wanted to talk about physical versus digital because, as we've talked about before, my kind of buying practice is to always buy the #1s because I've been burned a few times where I looked at the #1, I was like, it's probably not that great, and then it ended up becoming a TV show or a hit movie or something, and I was completely wrong, and I lost out on thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
So.
Worth shot up, your personal worth shot down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I missed out on a good story, so there's that too. So now I make it a personal mantra to try to pick up the #1s from significant companies when they aren't like old characters, like new characters.
Right.
I also pick up books that I think have really fantastic artwork. Just because I know if the artwork is that great, that there's a good chance that it'll become iconic at some point. And not only will I enjoy hanging it up and displaying it for all to see, but there's good potential that it'll gain value, not only retain value, as long as it doesn't get smashed or something.
Which is what we want.
And then obviously I try to support our local comic book shops here. We got Laughing Ogre, World's Greatest Comics that I go to, Comic Town. It's a little further away now. Pack Rat Comics. There's a lot of them around here in Columbus, Ohio. But I try to support the local comic shops, so I always try to buy at least one thing a week just to help them out, even if I could, get it slightly cheaper on Comixology or, get it easier on Comixology or whatever.
If you have a subscription.
We've talked about dynamics where if you go to your local comic book shop, if you order more than 6 or 7 issues a month, you can get a pull, and you can get a pretty significant discount if you have a pull. But unfortunately, it's really hard to predict what issues are going to be released and which ones are going to be delayed, DC. You usually don't know until like a month or two before it's released that it's about to be canceled, and then you got to scramble to fill your obligation for 6 issues or 7 issues. So it's a really good deal if you know you're going to get the same comics every month. Not so good if you're a little bit less predictable like I am.
Right.
So I kind of missed out on that discount. So I was just wondering if you wanted to talk about our different buying practices. For me, I've been transitioning more to a start out physical and then transition to digital after a certain number of issues. I still don't know where that sweet spot is. I mean, if it's a line that I really love, like it's just something I can't put down, like Monstrous. I'm gonna buy every issue of Monstrous
Yeah.
just because it's that good to me, and I think they're all worth collecting. As long as Santa Takeda's on that book, I'm gonna be buying it. I have a feeling that Maestro is gonna be one of those books where I have to buy every issue physically because I want to own it, not just for the value purposes, but because I want to own it.
We love this book.
Um,
We love this book a lot.
Batman White Knight's another example. Mr. Miracle's another example.
Yeah.
Even though I think Mr. Miracle was a better read digitally.
Yeah.
But I want it so bad as a collector because I enjoy it so much that I buy it physically. So
Yeah.
But with other things, if like for example, Imaginary Fiends. Imaginary Fiends really like the premise, but it's clear it's gonna probably go on for a while. It's gonna be one of those 100 issue books. Hopefully, fingers crossed.
Hopefully.
And the cover art is good, but it's not like so good that I just have to have it and put it on my wall for every issue or something. So more than likely after maybe one or two more issues, I'm going to transition to digital for that one, and I'm going to use my Comixology Unlimited subscription to get maybe a small discount, and I'm going to use promo codes. I mean, you can literally go on Google and just type in promo codes, Comixology, or whatever your digital streaming app is, and you can usually find some kind of small discount for your
Yeah.
purchase. Just do it all at once because usually you can only use it one or two times. So make sure you got all the comics that you're going to buy digitally.
Yeah.
So
Save up that money, people.
and it's just a little bit easier because I don't have to go into the fucking Columbus traffic and navigate the potholes to go to my comic book shop, even though I love them and not saying anything bad, but there's certain times where it's just very convenient, and it's hard not to admit that because I want to support my local comic book shops, but I've been transitioning to doing that more and more. I still go into my comic shop every week and get a handful of number ones and whichever covers I really want to get or books that I really really enjoy. But I cut it off at that point just because A, it's more convenient, and B, it's more affordable. And as you can see, we're kind of strapped for space as it is.
Yeah.
This is the apartment dining room here where I live, and I keep all my comics stacked here in the corner. And I got about what is it, 3, 6, 9.
9 short
I
boxes.
got 10 short boxes here. So I mean, it adds up, and it starts to take up quite a bit of room, especially if you're not like selling them outright or dealing
Right.
them every day.
Yeah.
And I a lot of them I intend to hang up and frame before too long once I complete specific collections and stuff like that. So it's really hard to manage all this stuff, and especially if you move,
Yeah.
it's a pain in the ass to lift all these things and then put them somewhere where they're not going to get smushed or something, and not going to get something poured on them in the moving truck and in the car. And
You got to protect them.
it's a pain in the butt, man. So
Yeah.
I was just wondering, what are your practices?
Well, in terms of finding that sweet spot, I think the sweet spot is going to differ from person to person based on the reason why they collect. Personally, I have never really been one to collect for value, even though I should have, considering that I actually had the first issue of Ultimate X-Men #1. Might have actually been worth something by now. Probably not.
I missed out on Walking Dead, so
Yeah.
don't feel bad. I still think about that every day.
Yeah. I personally collect books that, one, I want to support because I like supporting good writing, good art. I feel like I'm basically having a direct hand in someone's career. Like the more that I purchase either this book from Image or this book from DC or this book from Marvel,
Yeah.
or any of the other outlying companies, for me personally, unless someone tells me like ahead of time that there's this really good book that's about to come out, even though it'd be hard to say that it's good before it comes out, if we're word hits my ears that there's a number one that I need to check out, I want to get it the printed form. I want to get the physical copy.
Yeah.
Although there are lots of titles, specifically long-standing titles, where I have either gone away from it a while, haven't had the money to support the book, or I've seen the book go downhill and I don't feel like supporting it any further.
Yeah.
Where in order to catch back up to it later when it does get good, I will start to buy back issues digitally. That's usually how I've done it. I personally don't like doing digital titles unless I see this really like well-crafted comic book. Specifically, in my case, I'm probably going to be doing digital with Aquaman, unless I can somehow find all of the back issues in print.
Yeah. And sometimes that's what you got to do. It sucks, but sometimes it's all you can do.
Right.
And it's if you have a Comixology Unlimited subscription, it's really worth it, I think. It's like $6 a month.
Yeah.
But you get discounts in certain brands. Not DC's not included, unfortunately. But you get discounts in certain brands, and then you get a huge catalog of like back issues, maybe a year old or older. But
Yeah.
you have a huge catalog to read from it. Like I was reading Lock and Key for a long time, and man, is that book good. And there's no way I would have been able to track them all down and read them all in order, without
Right.
a digital interface. So it has never been easier to be a fan of comic books, but at the same time, it's never been harder. I know that doesn't make a lot of sense, but to anybody who's a comic fan, it makes perfect sense.
Right.
It's never been more accessible and more easy to find issues, but it's never been more daunting, as a newcomer to try to jump in and figure out what's going on,
Yeah,
especially
or-
with
or
long-established books.
Yeah, or more easy to become a critic in this day and age. It's like that. I think we've gotten to a point in our society where, because we know how stories work, and because comic
Thanks,
books.
Pixar.
Thank you, Pixar. Because we know how comic books work, we can very easily recognize when a writer's doing something that's a bit derivative or a bit contrived or
Yeah.
a bit like off of the mark of something that you would expect for like the standard tights and fights type of book. Fortunately, we have books that go outside of that, like the the most recent reboot of Witchblade has managed to take that from what was a
Boob. Boobs.
It wasn't quite Red Sonja boob. It wasn't quite Vampirella boob.
Yeah,
but
it was
it was-
more like what's a really good analogy here? It's more like Wonder Woman boob.
Wonder Woman boob.
A little bit more exploitative than Wonder Woman boob.
A little bit. Between Witchblade and Fathom.
We're talking like 90s Wonder Woman boob.
oh.
With the fucking the swimsuit that comes up to her ribs.
Oh, yeah. The 90s
There's-
style like
there's-
high waist thong.
Yeah. There's
Yeah.
like a there's like a centimeter of cloth preventing her labia from spilling out.
Oh.
That Wonder Woman. That's what Witchblade used to be. Witchblade is no longer that, thanks to good writing.
Right. They actually went back and tried to explore the character as opposed to this character's anatomy.
Yeah.
Which, yeah, that book, I will be going back and trying to find the number one of it because I like it that much.
But I have an issue.
Yeah, you do.
Send me an offer.
I'll make you an offer that you might probably refuse.
Damn.
Yeah, I think for me personally, it depends on the book. It depends on quality.
Can you offer me new brake calipers?
No.
For those who want to know about our delays,
Our delays.
my delays.
Yeah.
Thanks,
no,
Columbus potholes.
yeah, I say that as like we act as a unit. your delays are my delays. With that being said, our delays are more specifically a delay as a result of bad maintenance and infrastructure in Columbus. It's the city's fault, not ours.
Yeah, it's pretty bad right now.
Yeah.
For those who don't live in Ohio, Indiana, or Michigan, basically what happens in the Midwest is we're really cheap when it comes to fixing our roads. So we use terrible materials, and then when the roads get fucked up, we just fill it with some cold patch and hope it lasts. And then when the winter comes, it snows a lot, and our snowplows scrape up all of the shit we pretended to fix. And we assumed it wasn't that big a deal because it's just a little bumpy. But after the snow thaws, then you have craters in the road. And they basically devour your car, and I wouldn't recommend driving in these cities.
Don't do it.
In Ohio, Indiana, or Michigan post winter.
Be very careful where you drive.
You give it about a month or two before you visit those states, because it gets rough.
That it does.
Especially if you care about your vehicle. I've popped many tires and had some other mechanical and bearing issues thanks to potholes. So, thanks, Ohio.
I guess that's why our state flower is the construction cone.
Yeah, a lot of orange.
A lot of orange. Yeah.
Hence the Browns and Bengals.
Ooh.
They're orange traffic cones for construction sites. That's what they are.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's tough to manage because on one end, if you buy it digitally, you can't sell it. It's there.
Right. If you're trying to resell these things later, then digital is not the way to go.
Yeah, and unless you have a pull, there's really no chance of a discount. Whereas digital, you have a pretty good shot at getting at least a 10% to 15% discount using a promo code or some other service or whatever, which does help. Especially if you buy as many as we do.
Yeah.
You usually have like a cinematic way to read it programmed into the app or whatever, which is really nice. However, sometimes you lose that whole splash page impact because it's on a little screen. You're just like, oh, okay, But when you read it in a real comic, you're like, wow, this is really intricate. This is really cool. And there's a lot of features and details that you miss with a digital app. And sometimes it's just hard to read.
Yeah.
Sometimes I have to fucking zoom in like a million fucking times on the image because I can't read the little text, especially in a big blown up image, on a little digital screen. So there's significant downsides. I think Marvel does a really good thing. I hate that they put it on the front of the cover because it's really annoying because it blocks the cover art. But I think it's really great that they have the digital edition inside the physical edition. So if you buy the physical book in the shop, you still get the digital one, and you can go redeem it on Marvel Unlimited. So I think that's really cool. I wish all comic companies would do that, because that would, first and foremost, establish a greater impact for local comic book shops to actually order more issues, because now there's no more value within that issue.
Right.
And it does kind of make up for the space that you're sacrificing, trying to preserve these comics and make sure they don't get damaged and don't lose all their value. So there's plus and minuses everywhere. Again, I'm starting to transition more into kind of a 50-50 approach, where long established stuff that I know isn't going to hold a ton of value and is kind of risky, I just kind of get digitally when it's convenient. And then the big stuff that has really great cover art, or is a number one, or is a book I really particularly like and enjoy, those ones I'll still physically buy and take care of. I know some people buy volumes, and volumes are great to get a collected edition and go through it that way. But again, it doesn't retain any value like individual issues do.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's just something lost with volumes. And I think it's an easier read. It's a better read because now you have all the context back to back. But I think you kind of lose something when you read a volume book because the spine's a little thicker and it's a little tougher to read, and you kind of got to damage it just to open it.
Yeah.
It's like a soft cover book. It's really hard not to damage the spine and mess up the front and everything when you're reading a big thick book.
Yeah, there's something about the because of the volume books, the very nature of their construction. More times than not, you are going to lose some of the art just to the spine.
Yeah, and if you get the hardcover, often you're paying a good premium. Whereas if you bought the individual issues, it probably wouldn't have cost you quite as much.
Yeah. Which,
so
again, do not resell.
There's downsides, there's upsides, but I think overall, having some kind of mixed approach is probably the best for everybody, especially if you're trying to catch up, which both of us are always trying to do. So
yeah, this time it's Aquaman's turn.
Yeah. So I think that wraps up the topic pretty good, unless you have something else to add. Support your local comic book shops.
Yes,
but
I think that's the overall thing here is like support your local comic book shops, but if you're trying to get into a comic, do not feel ashamed to buy a digital if you really want to get caught up, because I mean, even the best of us have to do that sometimes.
Well, I think that wraps up another mediocre edition of Hit the Books podcast.
Mediocre.
Thank you all for sticking with us. If you like what you hear, be sure to hit like and subscribe down below, as we said at the beginning of the podcast. And check us out on your podcast services and social networks of choice. We're on Twitter at HTBVids.
Yep.
We're on Facebook at /hitthebooks, facebook.com/hitthebooks. And you can always go to our website, htbvids.com. That's VIDS.com. Where you can find buttons that'll take you straight to our YouTube channel, straight to our iTunes feed, straight to our Stitcher feed, and many other different things and materials and written documents. And you can see the former covers and variant covers of the week for last year and this year. Literally, you can type in htbvids.com/the year, 2017, 2018, and you can see what we chose for our covers and variant covers of the week leading up to this week. So feel free to check that out. Once again, we apologize for being late this week. Again, had some issues thanks to my car, which is my primary form of work right now. So
yeah, we like to keep things transparent here.
Yeah, and we also wanted to see Black Panther first. So again, we had two things that caused major delays for us and getting this podcast out. But the fortunate thing is you get both the review and the podcast this week back to back. So enjoy. Please let us know what you think about both the podcast subjects and the movie review.
You're welcome, world.
Yeah, about that. So hopefully next week we'll be back on time, all good to go, and everybody will be happy and jolly and full of energy, and we'll have more news items to talk about for your enjoyment.
Of which I'm sure there will be many.
So thank you once again for watching. See you next week. Goodbye. Bye. Danger zone.